All the focus is supposed to be on Washington, but really, who isn't saying what if right now? Well, I'm not scared to ask. Evan Woodbery's coming up next on the Black and Gold Today. Welcome to the Black and Gold Today, sponsored by Cadillac of New Orleans. I'm Jim Derry, along with NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune Saints beat writer Evan Woodbery. And Evan, before we get to what's going on, let's listen to what Drew Brees had to say about gaining momentum and the upcoming bye week, and then we'll talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think every game is a critical juncture, honestly, from here on out. I'd say especially where we are this week, being that we have a bye next week. And listen, we're banged up just like a lot of people are, but that bye week is an opportunity to really get healthy in a lot of areas. And so, we need to go on the road this week and play our best football, without a doubt, because we need this win. But also, I think it gives us an opportunity to feel a little bit better going into the bye week, to get healthy, and then to be ready to really make that run. This bye is coming, obviously, the last possible week that you can get a bye. So a lot of teams have already had theirs. They've already had their opportunities to kind of get rested up and what have you. But man, this is a week where we got to pull out all the stops. We got to make sure that we're doing everything we can to get this win, and then get rested up and worry about the rest of the season.
And Evan, talk about just how important it is. Drew can put a positive spin on just about anything, but this team knows that it's pretty much in a must-win situation going into Washington. You got to be 500 at the bye week.
Yeah, you absolutely do. I mean, they're on thin ice already. They're on even more thin ice after losing a game they should have won at home against a weak team. So, I mean, they've dug themselves in the hole with the 2 losses at home against Tampa and Tennessee, which are probably near the bottom of the league. That means you have to go steal some wins on the road, and this is a game that is probably close to a 50-50 game, but it's one they need to win. And
Zach Street talked a little bit about veteran leadership in the locker room, and he's been in this situation before. Before we get to the clip, you tell me how much do you think that they're leaning on the veterans this week?
Well, I think if you're a veteran, especially someone who's been in the league a decade or more, this is not that dire a situation. You've been in similar situations. Kind of the way the league works. That one thing can happen one week and something completely different can happen the next week. I think if you've been through enough games and seasons, that maybe some of the younger players, this is the first time they're experiencing it.
Well, let's hear what Zach Streif had to say in the locker room earlier on Wednesday.
To win this one, and I think at this point in the week, you're kind of over it. I think the last 2 days, there's plenty of guys saying, man, we let one slip there that we needed, and that can be frustrating. And yet when you come in here on Wednesday, it kind of seems like back to the grind and back to normal, and find a way to win this week.
Is it harder on a veteran or harder on a young player? Something like that.
I think sometimes as a veteran, I think you realize how hard it is to win. I think you have a better understanding of just how hard it is to win in this league, and how hard it is to give away a game and make up for it later. There's just not a lot of opportunities. So, I think I would say probably as a veteran, it's a little bit tougher knowing that it's tough and something you can't let those opportunities slip.
Thanks. It is hard to get over such a tough loss, and we talked about it already. But now that the focus is on Washington, what do you see as far as getting out to a quick start? I know that's going to be important, and they've done it the past couple of weeks. They weren't able to capitalize on it this past week, but talk about especially the offense and what they're going to need to do.
Yeah, I thought the Saints were following the script almost perfectly in the first quarter against Tennessee, because they did get out to that big lead. And during their winning streak, that's allowed them to put some pressure on the other team's offense, get after the passer. And that was, I think, what was really lacking against Tennessee, was just no semblance of any kind of, not just lack of sacks, but lack of real pressure from Marcus Mariota. So I think that's going to be a focus going forward, to allow the line to get some pressure on the quarterback, maybe create some turnovers on the back end of the defense because of that pressure, and even up that turnover ratio that was something that they lost against Tennessee.
How tough is it for them to go to FedEx Field? What kind of place is that to play?
Well, it's a big stadium, one of the bigger by capacity in the league, but the Redskins haven't been very good for a while, so I don't know how intimidating it's going to be. And frankly, the Saints have shown over the last couple of years that there doesn't seem to be a dramatic difference between the way they play at home and on the road. They've won their fair share of road games.
Well, there's a guy on the Saints roster right now who was wearing a Redskins uniform in August, and now he's in the black and gold, and it's kind of an interesting situation with kicker Kai Forbath and Dustin Hopkins, who's now in Washington. They've kind of traded spots. Let's hear what Kai Forbath had to say about playing against his old team. Have you ever seen a situation where, their kicker was here, you were there? Is that just odd?
Yeah, I mean, like this is a small group of kickers that kind of go around from team to team. You want to stay on a certain team for a long time, but it is crazy that we kind of just switch roles, even with Zach being with me in Washington before that too. Weird how it turned out, but I think, as far as I know, I'm happy where I ended up.
Lastly, what's it like kicking there? I mean, and what's the atmosphere like at FedEx Field?
It can be challenging at times. Field's not great. I've heard the weather's supposed to be nice though, so I think we're lucking out this weekend. Kind
of a weird situation, Forbath going back to Washington, and meanwhile Hopkins is playing his former team. Have you seen anything that's kind of like this?
Not to this degree, because the guy that came before Forbath, Zach Hocker, actually was with Washington and is friends with Forbath. So it's kind of the circle of life of NFL kickers. And right now, I'll say this: Dustin Hopkins has been phenomenal for the Redskins. He's been a real asset for them.
Talk about before we let you go. Let's talk about what the Saints have to do this week. We talked a little bit about the fast start, but what do you see, I guess, is the question. What do you see going into this week? Do you expect them to be ready to go?
I think it's a very winnable game, and it's obviously a must-win game. But when the Saints have played at their best, they absolutely can win games like this. I think the turnover ratio will be important, getting more pressure on the quarterback like we talked about, and then getting more of the ground game going, which they really tried to do. They were dedicated to it. They just didn't break any big runs that I think might have helped. But they were committed to it, and I think they're going to be committed to it again.
Ready for a couple days off?
I think so, yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back with today's Extra Point.
What's one of the nicest things that comes with your new Cadillac from Cadillac of New Orleans? 0% interest.
Get 0% interest on all new Cadillacs, now at Cadillac of New Orleans. New owners, new attitude, on Lime Street in Raleigh.
Today's Extra Point, here's the key to victory. Forget about the defense. Forget about the offense. As long as RG3 doesn't play for the Redskins, the Saints are fine. They're going to win the football game. Well, what am I talking about? Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. The Saints are 4-5 this season. Their 4 wins have come against teams who don't have Heisman Trophy quarterbacks. Their 5 losses, that's right, all against teams with Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. Jameis Winston, Carson Palmer, Cam Newton, Sam Bradford, and last week, Marcus Mariota. So as long as Robert Griffin III is on the bench and Kirk Cousins plays, they're good, right? Well, I guess we'll find out. Well, that's going to be it for today. Join us tomorrow when Larry Holder's in, and we see if we can find a little pixie dust. Tomorrow on the Black and Gold Today. See y'all.